You have a lot of young people in your company.
Yes.
How do you handle them?
Handle as in what?
Handle as in, I can see that you're quite neatly dressed. I have always seen you suited, booted kind of. And then of course this young generation, I guess, like you mentioned earlier, are non-conformist, and they feel that, they feel that, they can change the whole world, kind of an attitude, right?
Yes.
And you're probably dealing with not one, probably two of those generations, the 20-something and the 30-something as
Yes.
well.
Yes.
And you're at the top. So is there some kind of a conflict there, or you think it's all a harmonious mix which is nicely blending in?
No, I think that it's fairly harmonious. I don't see that conflict, but I do see sometimes amusement that people in their 40s and 50s have to see how these guys with a entirely tech background and entirely sort of focused on developers and the mindset is sort of very devil may care type of attitude, and they want to question everything. They want to look at everything in a very different way, and it's very refreshing.
Right.
So from my vantage point, I look at the sort of the middle management people, look at these guys with some sort of amusement in the way that they question the status quo, as well as the way they dress.
Right.
But I don't see conflict.
Right.
But I certainly see some adjustments being made, primarily from the middle management side, because these guys, they don't make adjustments. They just sort of, they're like, this is the way we are, take it or leave it.
Yeah.
But they have phenomenal value to add, so everybody adjusts to it.
And is productivity a challenge when you come across these bunch of youngsters and their outlook to that is completely different? So they may think that I can work from anywhere, I can walk into office anytime, I can go back home every time. But you have to run an organization. There are certain kind of do's and don'ts and timings and all of that. So is there a clash there in terms of how productivity was traditionally mentioned, which I believe was on the basis of efficiency?
Definitely. Yeah. So I think time productivity is a challenge. If you start measuring these people purely from the traditional 9 to 5 or whatever, it will be a challenge.
Right.
So I think that the idea of getting these people involved in the business is that they work on the business. They don't work in the business in some sense. The traditional teams and the traditional domain expertise works in the business. These people work on the business, trying to disrupt it from the outside to say, if we had an outside competitor come in, and most disruption is now technology enabled.
Right.
So they are coming in to transform, change, lead processes, actions, platforms, whatever you want to call it. They are coming at it and bringing different thinking. Therefore, you measure them more, not on the amount of hours or time they put in, or whether or not they conform to the way people dress or whatever. You measure them in terms of saying how many things they are able to transform in a short period of time, and how many things are they able to change that might be taking much longer in a normal process. And change is something that they just intuitively are able to see.
Yeah. It's also, I think, speaks a lot about their confidence. I mean, and I see this in colleges also. Sometimes I go to colleges to teach. I mean, we used to be very kind of afraid of our teachers and professors. Today's students, they're not. I mean, and teachers have also begun to treat them like friends.
Yes.
Which is, I think, it's nice. And and there's no kind of surprise about anything new or any new city or any new office.
Right. I think that's where the knowledge. When we went to college, when we did our learning, there was a one-way direction of knowledge impartation. The reality is that today it's a two-way stream.
Yeah.
So there are areas in which the professors are more knowledgeable, and there are areas that these kids are more knowledgeable. And the interesting thing is that when you and I were growing up, the things that we were more knowledgeable about, than the professors, they were not transforming the world.
Right.
But the areas that these kids are more knowledgeable about, we all know that those are the areas that are actually transforming the world.
Right. And the days of the sage on stage,
No,
so to say,
no,
is
yeah.
completely gone. It's
Yeah.
gone. Yeah.
I think the sage on stage is still there, but it's now it's age agnostic.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's still there, but I mean, one of the things that you see in all this aspect of and we're bringing in the IT and the technology and the digital aspect of this is that the pace of change is such that people of my age or people in their late 40s, early 50s, for us to be able to keep up with that pace of change, is extremely important.
Right.
But because we're adult learners, the best way for us to possibly keep track of that is to actually work side by side with these guys, and these ladies, because it's literally impossible to stay current and on top of things by just simply reading or observing in from a third party vantage point. It is impossible.
Yeah. What is also happening and going to happen is that a lot of the work is going to get automated. It's going to be taken over by robots, and cars are already being manufactured by robots, and slowly it's coming to corporate offices. I think all the mundane kind of work is already being taken over by robots. Is the customer happy, or does he want more of a human interface?
So I think for, as you said, the mundane stuff, which is the value add is actually only the information. The interpretation of it is, not necessarily it's, if you just want to know X, that X is easily available. So that is all being, robotics is driving it. But I think that it's a bit unknown right now. I don't know if customers will actually, I think people of our generation like to think that people are looking for the high touch. But I can tell you, I haven't been to my bank in 5 years now.
Yeah. So do you really believe that banks will shut down?
I think that banks will not shut down from a
retail banking at least,
physical presence viewpoint. I think they will reduce dramatically, and I think that they will need to dramatically ramp up what they're doing in the online space.